right, good morning, everybody. I'm just going to put the light on. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to post this on YouTube and Twitter and etc. But I'm going to keep it real with you guys. So, okay. So, I had a PI license, and I'm going to make this simple. There was a corporation called MindGeek. That's M-I-N, Mind, M-I-N-D, Geek, G-E-E-K. MindGeek, pretty much. And that's called an A corporation from now on. They change, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to explain to you very, very simple what happened. So I was in St. John's University. After I was in Queens, they transferred my credits over to the City University of Brooklyn. I got my degree in Brooklyn with my accounting degree, and then I transferred over to NYU. But I was doing paramedic work. So the FDNY had problems because they were having cybersecurity threats. And I had a friend that's on this YouTube in the background. His name's Simon Wilson. I met him, and I met some of those people that do podcasting. So I'm just going to explain to you what exactly happened during this pandemic. So I got a phone call that there was problems with cybersecurity threats. So the FBI basically came to my house and they said, well, we got mail from your house. I said, this is not my house. This is my parents' house. I said, you guys need to speak to United States Marshals. And I explained to them what exactly happened. You guys had me take an exam, which you lied to. So that's number one, which is now going to be a precedent case. You can't lie about taking a United States exam. That's a federal exam. So you lied. So the CIA basically had me go into workers' comp, and I explained myself. The CIA knew where I was. The CIA said to me that they're required, NUMIC, is Nassau University Medical Center, is required to explain things on why they're allowed to take things like books like this. See this? They're not allowed to take books and make stories out of them. So James Patterson had written a book on thrill killing. I'm going to repeat that. James Patterson had wrote a book on thrill killing. And that book, some of these women that are groups that do this satanic cult do this for a living. So I'm going to make this for adults only and explain why this is related to Coachella and all of these events. So when I was in yeshiva, I was going to apply to become a practicing rabbi. Means I was going to become educated in that field. So I had a pad like this. And I talked to Rabbi Mark Rubenstein, and Rabbi Mark said, if I were you, I wouldn't go to the school. So I was hesitant. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to try 3 or 4 classes. So I took 3 or 4 classes there. And I did well. So then I basically found out later in my case that a lot of these products that you call technology, they weren't built by most of those people. They were designed by my relatives. So I have a relative named Arthur Gatchins. I have a relative named Paul Gatchins. They basically designed it. And then this is why I'm going to tie it into this post here. specifically for Matt. You need to understand something, Matt. Those people, they're all satanic. In these holy scriptures, during Moses' time, he had to face the Pharaoh, in these times. Enoch, Elijah, Ezekiel, Melchizedek, they had to face foes that you can't understand because these people, they're not normal. They're what you call Wiccan. Wiccan means they study witchcraft and they're demonic. So Satan does that. Satan does that. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Satan does that. Pretty much what I'm trying to say. Satan is known as Sam. Her name is Samantha. That's her real name. She's not a man, she's a woman. And for some time being, I'm going to be honest with you, my Archangel Michael had to play this Lucifer person. And her father had to play the person. Because it's essentially a role that those people don't want to start admitting the truth. As well as the role of Saturn, which they don't want to start admitting the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Because I caught them on their lies. Because they don't want to be honest. Because most of those prophets don't get it. They're playing ping pong with their own relatives. In other words, some of this information that Billy Carson's II brought up, some of this information David Icke brought up, and that is a lot of this religious stuff, they're not being honest because Yahweh is my relative, means I had a DNA test done. Means God had asked for a DNA test. And you say, oh, well, how can you prove that? Well, I can prove that because Joshua's DNA and my DNA are similar. And you go, well, how can you prove that? Well, in the past video, I showed you a veil. That veil looks exactly like my face. It's similar. So they took an image of it on a computer system, and mine matches Joshua's. In other words, Joshua looks like me, kind of. And the other thing is, the thing that Robert Kiyosaki brought up as well with this book, is that you can't, ladies and gentlemen, you can't make up a story. If you have a workers' comp, this is why I'm explaining this online to you guys. If you have a workers' comp case and you're leaving law, because I don't practice law anymore. I don't touch it. I don't practice it because you guys don't want to be honest. See, the police, they came here. They came to my house and they said, the officer, that's a female woman, said, why are you calling the police? I'm calling the police because my car got dented. My car got dented means someone took a device like this and smashed it. That's illegal. And this is what is going on right now with me to begin with, because my niece and nephew don't get it. There are people out there that are sicko, that they don't understand. You gotta lock these doors, ladies and gentlemen. See, like this, the camera system, you should have something like a camera system to protect yourself, because people out there, they don't care about your possessions. So that's a good thing, to sign up for Sloman's, where you have a home security system, because you need to have it, and it's good for tax purposes, and it's good for yourself. Because some of these people, they steal Amazon. That's another thing. Amazon got scammed because of this during the pandemic, and that I had to testify about, which I was required to do, which I didn't care. But ladies and gentlemen, when you're doing food delivery orders and you're going to somebody's dwelling, you better be very careful, because some of these people, they're not who they say they are. They're not honest. And Kendall came to my apartment. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by Kendall. She knocked on my apartment front door, and the security came, and I said to her, I'm not letting you in after so many amount of times. Because she's just a con woman. And repeat that. She's a con woman, and she doesn't want to be honest. And these people out there, let me just say another thing to you. They're cloned. Now, what do you now, John? Hey, John, what do you mean cloned? Cloned means like you see this book. They're cloned. They have clone copies. Means they wear some sort of synthetic that makes them, wear cosmetics like somebody going to a cosmetic surgeon. That's what they basically told me. That some of those people are using things that they're not allowed to use. That's something that I'm trying to explain to you, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever they're having with IV, that's not FDA required. Means they're going around the system. And that's completely illegal, ladies and gentlemen. You can't do that in medical. You can get charged. In other words, when I was in medical school, I took so many amount of classes as an EMT that it reached to a point where I graduated, I got my degree. But the police department here in this district, like in the city, they said that these people, they're not going to be honest. They're going to get charged with fraud and so many amount of tax evasion crimes. And that's what's going to end up happening. You're going to see these people get arrested. So I hope this gives you some information. From now on, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I would be very careful with these celebrities. I looked up this server system, this celebrity website. You guys are doing anything with extortion with actors and actresses, SAG can have you indicted. Let me repeat that. If you're doing anything with extortion with any of these inappropriate websites, SAG and all those people can indict you. Just letting you know. That's all. Take care, guys. Have a pleasant and wonderful day.